Welcome to the Unraveling the Scriptures channel. Throughout history, the Canaanites have been known by many names, but the most significant is undoubtedly the biblical name Cananites. This people had an ancient, diverse, and, in some ways, mixed Camitic origin. In this video, we will explore the disappearance of the ancient Canaanites, who were also known as Phoenicians and, later, as Punics. We will understand how such an influential civilization with vast maritime and commercial knowledge vanished from history. We will address intriguing questions such as, where are the Canaanites today? What happened to this people who once dominated the major trade routes of the Mediterranean? Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with those who are also interested in historical mysteries. Let's uncover together what happened to the ancient Canaanites. Where are the Cananites today? The ancient Canaanites, also known as Phoenicians, formed a maritime civilization of Camito-Semitic origin that developed along the coastal strip of the Levant region in the eastern Mediterranean, primarily in what is now Lebanon. Throughout history, the Phoenician territory expanded and contracted, but the core of their culture extended from Arwad in modern Syria to Mount Carmel. The Phoenicians, or Canaanites, spread their cultural influence through trade and colonization across the Mediterranean, reaching from Cyprus to the Iberian Peninsula, Greece, and ancient Italy. They were the direct heirs of the Canaanites of the Bronze Age, continuing their cultural traditions after the collapse of several great civilizations during the late Bronze Age and early Iron Age, without significant interruptions. It is believed that the Phoenicians identified themselves as Canaanites and referred to their land as Canaan, demonstrating a cultural and geographical continuity. The term Phoenicia was an ancient Greek exonym used by outsiders that did not reflect a cultural or political unity as the Phoenicians themselves would likely have understood. In addition to their naval and commercial skills, the Phoenicians are notoriously remembered for their cultural and technological contributions, including the creation of one of the first phonetic alphabets, which directly influenced the development of Western writing systems. This innovation facilitated communication and trade, being fundamental to cultural exchange in the Mediterranean. In fact, the correct name for this people is Cananites. The term Phoenicians was assigned to them by the Greeks, and the word Phoenicia derives from the Greek phoinikes, which can mean purple color, associated with the famous purple and lilac dyes produced by the Canaanites. These peoples were notable for their skills in trade and, above all, in navigation, being exceptional sailors. They dominated trade during the classical antiquity period, establishing a vast maritime trade network that lasted for over a millennium. This network was crucial for the exchange of cultures and goods between civilizations such as Greece, Egypt, and Mesopotamia. The Phoenicians established colonies and trading posts throughout the Mediterranean, with Carthage in northwestern Africa being one of the settlements that grew and became a powerful civilization from the 7th century BCE. The ancient Canaanites were organized into city-states similar to ancient Greece. Among the most notable were Tyre, Sidon, and Byblos. Each city-state was politically independent, and there is no evidence that the Phoenicians considered themselves a single nation. Most of these cities were governed by some form of royalty, although merchant families likely exercised significant political influence through oligarchies. After reaching its peak in the 9th century BCE, Phoenician civilization began to decline due to various external influences, including conquests by other peoples. The Phoenicians' ability to navigate great distances, establish colonies, and integrate cultures made them one of the most influential peoples of the Mediterranean, despite their political fragmentation and eventual downfall. According to the sacred texts of the Bible, we understand that the origins of the Phoenicians trace back to Canaan, the son of Ham, with their paternal lineage stemming from Canaan himself. However, over time, the ancient Phoenicians, or Canaanites, intermixed with various Semitic populations, such as the Arameans, in addition to several kingdoms that successively dominated the region. This intermingling included, significantly, the Israelites themselves, as indicated by biblical texts. In addition to the Arameans, the Phoenicians also blended with other powerful peoples of the time, such as the Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, and later with the Arabs. This cultural and genetic mixture contributed to the formation of a civilization rich in diversity, assimilating influences from various dominant cultures of antiquity. The Phoenicians' ability to interact and integrate different peoples made them an important link in the cultural and commercial relations of the Near East, further enriching their historical heritage. A question I frequently receive about the ancient Canaanites is whether they would be considered black in the Old Testament due to their descent from Ham. This is an interesting question, and to answer it, as usual here on the channel, we need to analyze the complete historical context, considering the intermixing, expansions, and conquests that involved this people. The Phoenicians, or Canaanites, were largely assimilated by various other nations over the centuries, including Middle Eastern peoples such as the Lebanese and the Jews themselves, who may have Canaanite ancestry in their lineage. Furthermore, the Canaanites were influenced by a mixture of different genetic groups, which includes not only Semites, but also Indo-European peoples like the Persians, Greeks, Macedonians, and Romans. Later, they were also assimilated by the Arabs, and over time, went through the influences of the Ottoman Empire and French rule in Lebanon. In answering the question posed at the beginning of the video, the ancient Canaanites cannot be classified as a homogeneous population in terms of appearance. Due to constant intermixing with different peoples, they became a diverse group. Thus, although they descended from Ham, their physical and cultural characteristics varied greatly over the centuries due to assimilation by other Semitic, Indo-European, and Arab peoples. An important point I would like to mention about the Phoenicians is the following. According to some Persian historians, there is an ancient tradition that states that the wife of Canaan belonged to the lineage of Tiras. And since Tiras is a descendant of Japheth, this suggests that Canaan genetically intermingled with Japhetic peoples. This mixture, mentioned in ancient traditions, would have contributed to the formation of the ancient Phoenicians, or Canaanites. The Phoenicians appear in various traditions of Indo-European populations, such as the Greeks. To give you an idea of how influential they were, the Phoenicians are even present in Greek mythology. This illustrates the cultural impact they had, especially considering that it was the Phoenicians who introduced writing to the ancient Greeks. The Greek alphabet, for example, is directly based on the Phoenician alphabet, originating from it. In addition to cultural influences, there is also evidence that the Phoenicians genetically intermingled with the ancient Greeks. The genetics of these ancient populations confirms this interaction. Furthermore, the Romans also mixed with the Canaanites, which means that even modern Italians may have a small percentage of Phoenician ancestry. From the beginning, the Phoenicians were always a highly mixed people, constantly integrating with other populations. As a result of these mixtures, they ended up being assimilated by various civilizations, and today, there is no longer a nation or group that self-identifies as the ancient Canaanites or Phoenicians. So, where did the Canaanites go? The answer is simple. They were absorbed by different populations, both Semitic and Indo-European, Aryan in origin. Present-day Lebanese, for instance, have DNA that traces back to the ancient Phoenicians, as do other peoples of the Middle East. Even the Jews carry traces of Phoenician ancestry due to the ancient intermingling with the Canaanites that occurred at the time. It is worth noting that even then, the Canaanites were a highly mixed people due to constant contact with other cultures and civilizations. This underscores how much they were influenced and, in turn, influenced the populations around them. One very interesting aspect about the Phoenicians and Canaanites is that when we analyze ancient Egyptian sculptures depicting them, we can observe the diversity of this population even around 3,000 years ago. For example, some representations show Phoenicians with distinctly Semitic features, while others reveal individuals with a browner skin tone. This variation is fascinating as it suggests that the Canaanites had a predominantly Natufian genetic makeup rather than being strongly influenced by Anatolian ancestors or the Neolithic farmers of Anatolia. This Natufian predominance could explain the darker skin tone that some Phoenicians exhibited. However, over time, and through intermixing with Semitic peoples, which resulted in a genetic blend between Natufians and Neolithic Anatolians, the Phoenician characteristics began to change. Additionally, the mixing with Greeks, who have European origins, further contributed to this shift in physical traits. Thus, Phoenician characteristics became a rich and varied combination, reflecting the history of interactions and cultural influences over the centuries. This diversity is a testament to the complexity and richness of the identities of the ancient Canaanites and Phoenicians. This kind of information is quite profound, especially when we address the issue of the intermingling of nations throughout history. Some societies have managed to preserve their identities and traditions, such as the Arabs, who historically avoided marrying other populations. The Jews, for a long time, also practiced such endogamy. Although many are intermingling more now, there are still groups that prefer to marry only among themselves, maintaining the purity of their lineage. However, the situation of the Phoenicians is quite different. They were notoriously open to intermingling, marrying and mixing with Jews and various other Semitic populations. This practice of assimilation and cultural interaction contributed to their diversity, but also led to their disappearance as a distinct identity. The genetic assimilation with various populations over time is, therefore, a significant reason why the Phoenicians, as an autonomous group, ceased to exist. I thank you for watching the video up to this point. May God bless you, and I'll see you soon.